I just feel like my brain isn't working properly.
After my first report about long COVID, so many people got in touch to tell me they were going through the same thing. But what they really wanted me to know was that they were desperate for help. By December last year, 69 long COVID clinics had been established in England. But did that mean people were being seen effectively? When the initial clinics were announced last year, they were billed as being multidisciplinary and holistic. So I kind of imagine them as being like long COVID MOT centres, where you'd go in and everything would get checked out, the doctors would work out what needed fixing and figure out what they could do to help us recover.
You know what your heart's up to? Just need to.
It's an analogy that seems to work at this multidisciplinary long COVID clinic in Edgbaston. It's giving targeted treatment to people like Shara, who was in a coma for 6 weeks.
Absolutely shocked and stunned to find out when the doctors told me that I've been asleep for 6 weeks. Still use a walking stick. Your muscles, obviously lower limb muscles, stiff up and don't work. I've got issues with my left hand. My toes are numb. My feet are numb, my shins are numb.
As high as you're able to go.
Many of their patients were hospitalised, but they're also helping some who were mildly ill originally, but went on to develop long COVID.
We have made a huge national effort to keep people alive, to the detriment of a whole range of other patients. We have an obligation now to help people thrive, otherwise what would have been the point? The NHS has never had suddenly an extra million people manifesting one disease. So it doesn't have the infrastructure to cope with an extra million people coming into hospital. It just doesn't. So we have to see how available services can be adapted. And it's not, I don't believe it's a question of money. It's just that there isn't the personnel to do it.
So what's happening nationwide? I asked the question in the long COVID support group, and within half an hour we had hundreds of responses, with many people in despair at the lack of support. In a survey of 373 people by the long COVID support group, 56% didn't manage to get a referral. And of those who responded between March and April this year, long after long COVID clinics had been announced, a quarter said their GP didn't know there was a clinic in their area, and 10% said their GP just didn't believe them. James is a DJ, but long COVID has changed everything for him. When his doctor refused to believe he had long COVID, he had to move house and change GPs in order to get a referral.
I tried to get help so much and not being listened to. So my solution really was to move to another part of the city to get a different postcode so I could get a different GP.
But the clinic didn't have what he needed.
The doctor was very apologetic when we met. She could only do her specialty, which was a chest exam. And I'm certainly suffering from more neurological problems than I am chest now.
The main issue is that there's just a lack of consistency across the UK. There are clinics in England, but many of them are virtual appointment only. So it denies people that face-to-face experience that they're desperate for. And it's also really easy to miss stuff that way as well. It's also very much a postcode lottery, so where you live can determine whether you get referred or not. In Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, though, there are currently no government set-up clinics at all. Rebecca Long from Northern Ireland is a nurse and fitness instructor. Now, walking upstairs is a hardship after getting COVID over a year ago.
I can just about walk or stand for 15 minutes maximum. Really, my life is in my house. Northern Ireland's a small place, so we're not asking for like loads and loads of clinics. People would travel at any distance if they thought they were going to get help and support.
The Northern Irish government says bespoke services will be developed as soon as possible, but will not be in place for some months. The Scottish Government says that although there are no specific clinics, it has committed around £2.5 million to help with developing effective clinical interventions to support recovery and rehabilitation. While the Welsh Government says the Minister is exploring the needs people with long COVID have as part of our plans to ensure the NHS rebuilds from the pandemic. Last month, NHS England announced the opening of another 84 long COVID clinics with an investment of £24 million. But how many of those appointments will be in person? After an almost 6-month wait, mine took place online, and for some reason the doctor's camera was off.
Up into a full stand and you sit back down.
At this long COVID clinic in Chippenham, experts admit face-to-face contact is crucial for patients getting better.
We're often the first person who've met them face to face. They often are very, very emotional when they sit in front of us, and they are actually explaining where they're at, what's changed, and yeah, it's emotional for both of us, and it feels like a really, really important moment in the journey and working out how to make that recovery happen together.
It's clear that what they're doing here is working.
So that is her chest x-ray as of 3 weeks ago.
A multidisciplinary approach that considers all aspects of this complicated and little understood condition. When dealing with an uncertain illness like long COVID, it would make all the difference if patients could at least be certain of being helped. Ruth Liptrot, 5 News.